how do I want, and kind of leave it alone so that whatever I want comes to me.
By feeling worthy.
Okay.
Because when you want it and expect it, then it must be. But you said the key words, leave it alone. Because it's one of the things that is a little bit amusing, you probably won't think so, but it really is that when you keep asking the question, or when you keep asking for a solution, then you're standing in the place of the absence of the answer or the absence of the solution. Right. So if you keep that alive in your vibration, where is it? Why doesn't it come? I really want, then the answer or the solution can't come because they're different frequencies. So leaving it alone really is the key. In other words, you've already asked for it. Now get on to other things and allow it to come. Don't keep the absence of it alive in your vibration.
So how do you set it aside and let it in, to allow it in without thinking? How do you stop thinking about it?
Well, if it's something that you really have a hard time setting aside, and things you really want are often like that, then you have to find a way of just being general about it. Speaking about it in the most general sense will soften your resistance about it. Want to talk about the details?
It's getting better and better, everything in general, and I do try to keep it general because I did learn that from you. I don't really have anything
You either
specific.
have to change the subject, but the thing is, we were talking earlier about the momentum. So if you have a need that hasn't been filled, and the need is really raw to you, it's something that you really, 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 really want, but you want it, you're yearning for it, you want it from that place of not having it. You're slowing it down because that vibration is so active. It's keeping you from being a vibrational match to your vortex, and it's preventing. It's like your vortex is here and you're here, and it can't flow in. You've got to do something to raise that vibration. So distraction is a good thing. Getting busy on other things. Find something to do that occupies your mind. Make lists of the things that are working. Make lists of the things that were one time like that then broke loose and started to work. In other words, you just try to talk yourself in to believing that it's coming. Going general really is a good tool. Things do work out for me, and there have been things that I've wanted that weren't there and then came later. In time it will come. I don't need to worry about this. It's just a matter of allowing. I'm really doing a good job. That kind of thing. And then distraction through meditation is another really good tool. We think that meditation is not utilized by humans in the productive, effective way that it could be. If you would start your day by quieting your mind, you would align immediately. If you got up and before you remembered what was bothering you from yesterday, and before you checked your email and found out what's going to bother you today, if you would just get up and from that clear space, you would meditate and raise your vibration to the frequency of who you are, your magic would begin early in the day. The momentum would begin to flow to you early in the day. And that would distract you. Those positive thoughts and conversations and interactions with others, that your day would be full of that.
Yeah, my life is great. I have plenty of time and plenty of work, and everything flows. And there are some times when I really feel such an alignment that it's different than the everyday feeling, although I'm always feeling good.
You know what that is? You've allowed, for whatever reason, enough momentum that you've really tuned in to the frequency and the flow of who you are. And in those moments, you are truly seeing the world through the eyes of who you really are.
Yeah, and that's the feeling that I want to have all day, every day. Anything less than that is
we know.
Interesting.
Esther's been claiming the same. She's been saying she's a vibrational snob because she likes that feeling. But when you think about it, isn't contrast part of what sharpens your appreciation and therefore your enjoyment of things? In other words, when you think about it, When you think about eating a really wonderful meal, Esther and friends, everyone who was helping to set up here, had dinner last night, and at the end someone said, this was just delightful from beginning to end. His feeling of satisfaction was so pointed, and his degree of appreciation was so rich, and Esther was feeling the same thing. They all were. They'd had a really good time. They had a really wonderful meal. But if the waiter had come back around and said, all right, now what can I get you? What? Let's start again. Let's eat again, and then again, and then again, and then again, and then again. In other words, and we're not saying that you want to dip into despair, but there is nothing wrong with moving in that vibration of alignment from faster moving momentum to not so fast moving momentum. In other words, perspective is all a really good thing.
Yeah, I guess I really like momentum. And so, and since it's getting better and better, I think that I want those high-flying momentums to get higher, so when it's not so high, it's still very high.
But you know what's happening? The reason that we're having this conversation is because you're dipping from that high momentum, and that's why we're having this conversation, and you're trying to fix that. Isn't that interesting? Because we're not having a conversation about the high momentum. You're talking about the absence of it. So
let's skip it.
So there's a.
I don't want this conversation anymore. Let's go to another one.
Isn't it interesting? Isn't it? Because every subject is really two subjects. What is wanted is on one end of the stick, and the absence of it is on the other. And you know what? It's all right. We want you to embrace your highs and your lows. We want you to feel good about your positive emotions and your negative emotions. That's really what unconditional love is. Unconditional love is a knowledge that love and alignment and clarity and well-being and thriving and worthiness is who I am. That's just who I am. And nothing, no matter how it appears in this moment, is taking away from who I really am. And of course, I have the ability to look and look and look and look and to experience whatever it is I'm choosing to look at and experience. But it doesn't take away from who I really am. I am unconditionally solid. That's really what we want you to reach for. I'm unconditionally solid. And of course, you prefer feeling better than not good. Of course you do. That's a given. We just know for sure that when you focus upon how much you like to feel appreciation will show up more and more and more and more and more. And when you are missing it, the absence of it shows up more and more and more and more and more. Law of attraction is just this glorious, consistent best friend you've ever had, because it never gets squirrely on you. It's never arbitrary. It's always, always, always consistent. You can always count on it. Well, isn't that something good to know? I get to feel as good as I choose to feel in every moment of my life experience. And the more you care about that and the more you accomplish that, then the easier it is to ride that out. Esther woke up this morning. She was just feeling glorious. And she looked out, and the day is all misty. It feels like Thanksgiving. And then she thought, sometimes every other, or we have an open house following the event. But this time, when Esther thought about it, she thought, this isn't a good time for this. She could just feel that the weather wasn't going to hold. They usually hold it out at the property. It's an outside event. And so she just could feel that this didn't feel like the time for that. So she was all lined up with that. She'd done her focus wheels, and she was looking forward to seeing all of you and knowing that this was going to be a wonderful, dynamic day. It always is, but she loves the richness of this crowd. And then she heard from someone that some people were disappointed that there wasn't going to be an open house, and couldn't we just kind of put something together? And Esther got all flustered as she got focused upon the disappointment of someone else. And then as she was sitting back here getting ready for you, she could hear you and feel you, and she thought, why in the world would I focus upon anything that would take me from my alignment? And the reason is because somebody dished it up and handed it to you. In other words, it's like you feel like you have a responsibility to take what people offer to you, but you don't. Your responsibility is to stay in alignment with who you are, no matter what. So we give this to you in a very specific way, because you cannot be a pleaser of others and a maintainer of your alignment at the same time. They don't go together, because what others think they need from you in order for them to be happy sometimes doesn't have any momentum going for you. Sometimes it's out of alignment with what your intentions are. You see, you have to be joyfully selfish. You can't be other than you can't be other than selfish. You can't be other than selfish, because you cannot perceive outside your perspective of self. But you have to just decide that how you feel matters a lot, and you have to have this sort of self-policy that says, I care so much about you that I'm not going to stand on my head to please you. I'm going to keep myself in alignment with who I am, so that I have plenty to give you. And once you get that figured out, then you're steady. Then you're steady. Oh, you'll have little blips, you'll have little things, little tuning points, but for the most part, you'll be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, just as you said you would, and just as you deserve to be. We think this is a really good time for a segment of refreshment.